Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today I want to give a progress report for Southwood, a Stomarian province. So I haven't actually been back to the woodlands, back to Southwood, since the last progress report back in July. But I did want to quickly run through what my plans were for today and over the course of the next month or so, because as of early September, King Raoul of Wayward will be more readily available to assist with some of these works, and I'm going to run through what exactly our plans are in terms of preparing the land for the next phase. So if you saw the last progress report, you'll remember that I have been clearing out the woodland of all of this debris. The reason I haven't organised a collection of this rubbish as yet is because there is still more to come and I want to get it all done in one hit. That isn't necessarily something I'm going to be able to finish today, but it is something I'm going to be doing more of later this afternoon, and I will explain exactly what we'll be doing very, very shortly. But before we do that, I did want to quickly show off all of this rhubarb. Now, I was expecting by this point for it to have died back a little bit. But as you can see, a lot of it is growing very, very well still. It's still getting larger and larger. Now, I have noticed that there are some hit and miss patches here. And maybe someone will be able to explain why that is. So, for instance, you have all this rhubarb here. Absolutely massive, massive rhubarb. But then every now and again, you get this patch where a rhubarb plant was supposed to be, and it's just kind of died back, whereas the one just next to it is absolutely enormous. Likewise, some of these here, you have some plants which are doing extraordinarily well and then not so much, extraordinarily well and not so much. And I mean, this is, when you compare this to this, I can't see that the changes and the amount of availability of sun is so dramatic that it is a sun-related issue. So I assume it's just a dud crown. These two, I mean, I'm sure there was something here beforehand, but this has obviously died back a little bit as well. So this bed is completely devoid of anything. This plant's not doing too badly, but again, the next one, tiny. This one's not doing too great, next one non-existent, next two massive. I just can't see a rhyme or reason as to why some of it's growing, astronomically large, comparatively speaking, and others just haven't taken at all. But what I will be doing next year is I will be splitting some of these crowns, some of these successful crowns, so we can make sure that we get some fresh rhubarb in any area where it hasn't taken, and I will be taking notes as to where that is, because obviously each bed is numbered, so I will know exactly where the issues are. Now, I have actually been thinking about the beds themselves, and I'm a bit reluctant to discuss it because nothing has been decided as yet, but I am a bit wary of the potential long-term deterioration of this raised bedding here. Obviously, the raised beds initially were purchased because we wanted something that was going to be allocated to each Stomarian citizen, and they were going to decide what was going to be grown in it and all the rest of it, and then we would manage it and all that jazz. But that kind of system has been shelved, and so we've ended up with all of these numerous beds, and I'm not convinced that they're the best ones to have. I have been looking at maybe getting something more semi-permanent, so you might have some either metal or plastic raised beds as opposed to wooden ones, just so they will stand the test of time, won't need to replace them nearly as regularly, if at all. And again, I'm just a little bit wary as to what's going to happen with these raised beds going forward, because obviously they are wooden, they're not treated. We have lined them inside just to help with the deterioration issue, but it's not going to stop the wood from getting moist, damp, and then eventually start to rot away. So I don't know if we're going to end up replacing all of these with plastic beds, which would be quite a job in its own right, because we won't be able to get beds that are necessarily the same size as these, so it will require some rejigging. And that is something that in itself I'm a bit reluctant to do, because I don't want to disturb the crowns too much, because they do not like to be disturbed, from what I understand. Maybe it's a bit better if it's, you know, if they're in the crown stage, if they've all died back, maybe we can move them around a bit from that point. But I would hate for all the progress that we've made in establishing these plants to be jeopardized by us adjusting the raised beds again. But I mean, going forward, I think it is probably going to be a case of using plastic or metal raised beds, just so we don't have to worry about that issue going forward. More likely plastic, because obviously it's not something we're just going to, you know, use once and throw away. It's going to be something that's going to be used, well, for my entire lifetime, I suspect, and much beyond that. But whether or not we replace them, as opposed to just getting plastic ones in the future for the next round of provinces, I don't know, but we are going to have to replace them at some point, so watch this space on that one. The grapevine in the corner here is doing quite well. I've not seen any grapes or anything as yet. This is actually the second year that this has been established here. Sorry, just distracted quickly while I have a look for anything. No, I don't see any grapes. Yeah, so this was actually planted in 2023, and it actually grew quite successfully back in 2023. Now we're in 2024. It has grown back again in adjacent to these rhubarb plants. Now, these raspberry plants have gone a little bit nuts. They've engulfed the entirety of this oh goodness, look at that. Yeah, all of these are raspberry plants, and the reason we had these in here is because the birds are quite a menace when it comes to actually getting the berries. Now, it hasn't apparently stopped everything from being nibbled, and I don't know if Raoul has actually harvested or eaten any of these. I know he's done a few, but whether or not it's actually yielded any fruits, I do not know at this moment in time. I'll have to get some more information from him. I don't see any red, bar that little berry that I just saw, but the plants themselves are quite vigorous and healthy. And I do expect in the fullness of time for this all to be a lot more successful, even more so than it has been already, because I've said time and again, the people that say that you can't grow anything in the woods, I mean, here's your proof. You can grow plenty in the woods if you really want to. However, it doesn't detract from the fact that it would be better, more beneficial for the plants if there was a little bit more sun about. And so one of the plans for next year, 2025, all being well, is to take down some of these pine trees. So the pine trees themselves, a lot of them are either, you know, falling into one another, or they're dead, dying, or dangerous, basically. And some of them are just in the way. And are perfectly, it's perfectly possible to get these removed. The National Park Authority, as I understand it, are quite keen for the pine trees to be removed. So this is something that we're going to be looking at next year. And hopefully, by that point, as you can see, the sun's sort of up here and comes across here, so it blocks out a lot of the sun. It'll open up the land in terms of its potential and opportunities to grow perhaps even more than rhubarb. Rhubarb is something we did choose because it doesn't need full sun necessarily to grow, evidently, but it would be more successful if it did have a little bit more sun. So that is what we're going to be looking at doing, is clearing out some of these pine trees. Sorry, just admiring the flags flying in the breeze for a moment there. And also it would make the solar panels a lot more efficient as well, because it's locked up at the moment, but obviously these solar panels on the roof obviously require a little bit more sun. Being in the shade isn't the most efficient way to generate power, obviously, but it does generate a small amount of power for us to, you know, charge up small tools, batteries, that sort of thing. So that's something that we'd be keen to actually do as well. And obviously, once the pine trees come down, utilising them as a form of biofuel is something that we advocate for. We are advocates for biofuel as long as it's done sustainably. So as and when these trees come down, we will plant new trees, not necessarily pine trees, but we will plant trees to replace the ones we do take down, perhaps something a little bit more useful to us, a bit more manageable. But going forward, what I'd like to do is, if we do acquire additional territory which is forested and used specifically for forestry purposes, I would like to have various types of trees, perhaps not pine, but I would like to have a system going where we are taking down trees, replacing them, and then eventually taking those down and creating a sustainable biofuel industry, effectively. And that's the name of the game there. So when it comes to Wayward South, last time I showed you there was some greenery, and as you can see, that has continued to spread. So again, this is largely a work in progress, but it has done extremely well. I wasn't really expecting anything to be grown here at all, but as you can see, it's never been greener. And next year, I hope, once it's the sort of springtime, we're going to do another hit of clover and grass and all the rest of it all across the land, and it will just be an emerald sea. And that is exactly what we want it to be. And once the trees are taken down, or some of these trees are taken down, you can see that one sort of crashing into it. Once some of these trees are taken down and replaced with something a bit more manageable and sustainable, and less disruptive and dangerous, then hopefully it will really come to life. This woodland will really start to blossom. Now, one of my jobs today is going to be a lot of weeding. So I do want to keep things on top of the weeding aspect of things. I'm going to compost it all. So it will go in those compost bins back there. I've got a lot of leaves already, but I want some greenery in there along with the brown to make sure that I get some decent compost / leaf mulch kind of mix going. So I'll get all these weeds up and I'll chuck those in there, and hopefully that will help to create some more composting material for next year, where we can top up all these raised beds to make sure that the soil is rejuvenated each and every year with something, some organic material to make sure it's as organic as possible. Because we don't use, pesticides or herbicides or anything here. Everything we try to do is natural, is organic, and that's the game plan at the moment. Now, this is obviously where we're still clearing out a lot of the stuff. Still needs to be organised and everything. Over the course of the next few weeks, but certainly in the next month, all of this will be gone. It will be disposed of, burnt, recycled, given away, or whatever else. All of this is going to be relocated back there, so this is all going to be open as well. The ducks, the last vestiges of the livestock here at the land, is now also gone. So with the ducks gone, this pen can come down and again, just disposed of. Get this all sent to the scrapyard, burn it, recycle it, give it away, whatever we need to do, and clear it out. Because the intention is to not only clear out the pen, but to clear out a large part of the rhododendron and all the rest of it. It's quite an invasive species in this neck of the woods, no pun intended. And clearing out and pushing all the way back, because the land actually goes all the way back there, down to the roadside. And what we want to do is we want to build up the dead hedging, and from there we're going to basically utilize more of this land for another purpose, which I will discuss another time. But the point stands that we have some plans to utilize more of the land, and we can only do that if we push further back. We manage the land a little bit further back rather than just leaving it to grow entirely wild, which we don't object to in some parts, but the utilization of the land while trying to keep it as minimalistic and ecological as possible, is definitely something that we are trying to find that balance with. We want to make sure that the land is used, but is nevertheless done in an environmentally conscious way as possible. And as I say, trying to remove some of these invasive species, or certainly curtailing them, removing some of these pine trees to allow other things to grow and flourish, especially if some of these trees, as I say, are definitely due to come out. So I'm paranoid about this one. Look at it. Right above my shed as well. But in any case, so my task today is going to be doing a lot of weeding, hopefully taking down this duck pen rather, and bringing all that up to the top, and just continuing the march to minimalize everything on the land, trying to keep everything as ecological and environmentally conscious as possible, while nevertheless making it a productive, useful and streamlined province of the Empire. If you want to learn more about Stomaria, or play an active role in our development and expansion, visit our website at www.stomaria.com and find out what it means to be a Stomarian.